Hello, and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And football season is finally over. The NFL has concluded, and Super Bowl 56 has been decided. The Los Angeles Rams get their long awaited Lombardi by defeating the Cincinnati Bengals in a thriller at SoFi 23-20. We had our predictions for the game. Tim, you took the Bengals. I took the Rams. Yeah.
Close.
And actually, I finished over 500 in predictions, so I can celebrate about that. But Tim, you had the overall better record than me, so congrats to you. But we're going to be recapping Super Bowl 56 and everything you may have seen and may have missed. So, Tim, are you ready to get going?
Let's run it.
So there's a lot to discuss with Super Bowl 56. It was a back and forth game with the Rams going into the half up 3 points, and then it seemed like the Bengals pulled away very, very early in the second half and had momentum up until that final Rams drive where a back shoulder pass to Cooper Kupp scored the game-winning touchdown, and a last second drive by Joe Burrow and the Bengals was all for naught as the Rams were able to hold on defense and clinched the Super Bowl victory. There is a lot to break down when it comes to this game in between the lines and with the stripes, but we'll get to that later. The first thing that I want to break down is the performance of Cooper Kupp, Super Bowl MVP, much deserved. 8 receptions, 10 targets, 92 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, including that go-ahead touchdown that we just mentioned. But one thing that was really interesting to note about Cooper Kupp, until the final drive, he was having a really subpar day for his standards. Only 4 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. But then he took the game over. And it's like the Rams sort of remembered that, hey, the offensive player of the year is on our team, so let's throw him the ball once or twice. So you go
minor detail.
Yeah. Dink, dunk down the field. And they just kept feeding him. And Cooper Kupp was able to get the job done. So, I mean, Super Bowl MVP, well-deserved. That caps off the best individual receiving season in NFL history. And I really don't think it's particularly close. Everything that Cooper Kupp has accomplished this season, Triple Crown receiving, Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl MVP, his performances in the postseason, all of it. The Rams don't win the Super Bowl without the emergence of Cooper Kupp, especially this year. He was already a solid wide receiver before the season, where it's kind of jostling him and Robert Woods, who's going to be the wide receiver one. But Cooper Kupp quickly put those questions to rest this season, and the Super Bowl just caps a fantastic year for the Offensive Player of the Year.
No kidding. I mean, you talk about those 3 individual accomplishments that he got this year. Jerry Rice was the only wide receiver to ever do that entire career, and Kupp's just like, one season, right in the books.
Yeah, it's all he needs.
But yeah, and I think a big part of this individual game performance, I think, had to do with the mid-game absence of Odell Beckham Jr., which of course was a massive loss for the Rams. And I definitely feel bad for the dude because, I mean, he's fought his way to get back to this point and to make it to a Super Bowl. And he was having a solid postseason and a solid game until that what has been reported as a torn ACL, which you just hate to hear that for a guy. But yeah, it allowed Cooper Kupp to take over at the very end there when the Rams needed him most. And those 4 receptions and that final touchdown was exactly what they needed in a crazy ending to this game.
I mean, but back to the absence of Odell Beckham Jr., that really, really hurt them, especially in the second half, because once Odell went down, I mean, at the start of the game, they were feeding Odell Beckham. He had that first touchdown, and then he had a long catch. And then he tore the same ACL that he had torn in October of 2020. And some claim that Odell Beckham was playing his best football since the days of the New York Giants, which is hard to argue. Dude was a beast down the stretch for the LA Rams, and they were definitely missing him. I think it's a credit to the Bengals for, keeping on Cooper Kupp for the majority of the game, and the Rams were forced to adjust. And until that last drive, they really didn't. But boy, they were missing Odell, and you do feel bad for the guy because, Tim, like you said, how much that Odell Beckham has fought through, and he's now a free agent. So that has definitely hurt his free agency stock. He was potentially lined up to get a ton of money in free agency. and then you tear the same ACL for the second time, and then it's just kind
There's
of
a whole lot of question marks surrounding
for his future.
His future.
But the one thing that he gets out of the game is a Super Bowl ring, and that's really, the silver lining and all that, and it's a pretty good silver lining. And the next thing that I want to talk about, Tim, is something that you pointed out in our predictions video, which was the Rams' run game.
Oh, God. They looked awful.
You had said, that the Rams hadn't been able to get anything going against,
this was their worst one yet.
The Bucs and the 49ers. And we're like, all right, that's understandable. That's two of the best run defenses, two of the best front sevens in the NFL. But you're right. This was the worst one. Cam Akers, who expected to be a factor, 13 carries for 21 yards.
Not a single one of their
disgusting.
3 running backs.
Get it out of my sight, man.
Not a single one of those 3 guys was able to get over 2 yards per carry. Two.
That's disgusting.
For a large portion of the game, their longest rush of the game was a Matt Stafford scramble for 7 yards.
Yeah,
it just showed that they just could get nothing going throughout the stretch, and it did hold back their offense because the Rams love using that play action game, but of course it becomes really hindered and nullified when they aren't scared of you running the ball at all, because every time they handed it off, it just went nowhere.
I mean, granted, the Rams were able to make the proper adjustments and find Cooper Kupp in the passing game, and it was enough to win the Super Bowl. But I think that's time to segue into the other side, the Bengals offense. Jamar Chase is out there somewhere, but Joe Burrow sacked 7 times.
Yeah, I said that was gonna be a deal breaker for the Bengals in this one. Is like,
and well, the reason
really hard to overcome like 4 or 5 sacks there.
The reason we didn't talk about it much in the predictions video is because it was the obvious thing to talk about. Duh. Aaron Donald, he had a pair of sacks. Von Miller had a pair of sacks. Leonard Floyd had a sack, as well as Ashawn Robinson and Ernest Jones. They each had a sack, but my God, that Bengals offensive line almost got Joe Burrow killed again, because you saw him come up limping and holding that, not even the knee that his brace was on.
Thankfully, it was not that surgically repaired knee, and there's also been reports that he's not going to need surgery on this knee
which
either.
Is good.
So,
which is good,
once again,
for Joe Burrow.
Good overall, but they're really putting him at risk there. They need to give that poor man some help.
Going into the future.
Even on the plays where he didn't get sacked those 7 times, there was plenty of times where he was running for his life, including on that 4th down play where, I mean, if he didn't just randomly toss it because he knew he had no other shot, that would have been an 8th sack right there. And thing from that play in specific for me, 4th and 1 play on the line, how do you not double team Aaron Donald? That's what I don't understand.
I think he threw the ball to Samaje Perine because you say that was his only option, but Jamar Chase made Jalen Ramsey fall down.
It was his only option as soon as he found out that he was halfway to the ground.
Right, of course. You got a desperation heave it.
But yes,
that just proves the Rams.
Chase really did toast him down the
right
sideline.
Give Joe Burrow enough time to hit Jamar Chase down that sideline. And we can talk about that last play. What if? We can talk about a lot of what ifs.
So many things that had to do with that last.
Frankly, we're gonna get to the what ifs. Just hold your darn horses. But back to the Bengals O-line. I think a stat that I want to point out is the Bengals offensive line pass block win rate. 18%. 18% of the time, the Bengals were holding the Rams at bay, and that percentage is the worst.
I'm not a percentage or statistical guru. I don't know what like an NFL average is for that.
No, you're an engineer.
Terrible.
Let's not forget you're an engineer. You don't do percentages, but yeah, that is the worst of any game all 2021 season.
Jeez.
The worst. That is how bad the Bengals offensive line was.
I mean, once again,
and if that doesn't prove
that was going to be probably the biggest problem for him,
that doesn't prove that you need to get Joe Burrow some protection for the future. I don't know what does.
for the
You're
sake of
gonna
that
kill
poor
this
man's
man.
health and safety.
Yeah, you're gonna kill him.
Yeah.
Okay, so enough about the Rams on offense and defense, and enough about the Bengals offense. Let's go to the guys that control the game, the referees.
There were some real interesting
Oh
ones.
boy. So it seems, and this isn't the first time in the playoffs this has happened, it seemed like the refs for the first 58 minutes of the game just let them play. Slugfest, knock it out, brawl, literally fights going on in the sidelines. Oh yeah, no penalties. Let them play it out, swallow their whistle. And then once the 2-minute warning comes along, that's when you clamp
prolong the game.
And that's when you clamp down and start throwing penalties, because that was not a clean game on either side. Especially,
I think the biggest one to me is the surprise was to watch two different plays, pass interference and no pass interference. The T. Higgins 75-yard touchdown and Logan Wilson's little touch grab on the side on
well, those are the two big ones that
drive.
Everybody's pointing to. And of course, I've heard, Bengals fans say that they got the worst end of the stick when it came to officiating.
And that's the thing; it was both ways. You can't.
And I've heard people who support the Rams going, "Oh no way! We got a touchdown called against us. We got the worst end of the stick."
You can argue both ways, but
I go, you know what? Listen, the refereeing was terrible on both sides, and on that last drive, there were 4 penalties called in the last 2 minutes on Cincinnati. I think 3 were legit, and I think the 4th one, which is the Logan Wilson holding, it was not. The main 2, the 3 in the goal to go, you got Logan Wilson's holding, Von Bell, the unnecessary roughness, which was called because of a helmet to helmet. That's why that
was close. I'm not
I
sure
don't think
it
was
helmet to helmet though. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it was helmet to helmet though, which is why like when you said that 3 out of the 4 were like legit, that was the one when I saw the replay of that. I was like, I get that you talk about like the potential for like helmet to helmet or like defensive receiver, but what are you supposed to let a guy just come down with the ball in the end zone? Like you got to do everything you can to break that pass up.
I think if Von Bell would have led with like his shoulder,
yeah, if he turns more, but
with
like,
his shoulder instead
like,
of, but if you watch it, he's going down with the crown of his helmet up into Cooper Kupp, and it hits him right in the face, and then you throw the flag. I'm like, okay, right, that makes sense. And then there's the defensive pass interference on Eli Apple, which Eli Apple is getting absolutely clowned on.
He was just like, you're gonna come here.
He's getting clowned on every single social media, and frankly,
I
Eli
think deservedly. But also, I think that the Bengals defensive coordinator or the schemes they chose to run is also very much to blame, because why in a goal to go situation with the game on the line would you ever let Cooper Kupp be one-on-one with anybody, much less Eli Apple?
Yeah, anybody that's not named Mike Hilton.
Even Hilton got torched by OBJ for the first one.
Yeah. I understood like letting Chidobe Awuzie cover Cooper Kupp and letting Mike Hilton cover Odell. But once you got Eli Apple on the outside on Cooper Kupp, they were going to go to him all day. They were going to go to him all day, regardless of scheming, of game plan, of how it actually turned out. I think the consensus around the league and around everybody that's following the game of football and that watch the Super Bowl is that the style of refereeing is inexcusable. And I happen to agree with that. If you're going to let them play, but then to crank down the last 2 minutes.
Flip the script like right towards the end there. If you're going to referee the game poorly, referee it poorly in one way or the other. Don't start flipping around at the last minute trying to like make up calls or something.
Because then what you get is I am a firm believer that football games are won and lost by players. There is never a reason to call out an official and saying, oh, that's the reason we lost. I think that's lazy and I think that's stupid. But do the officials have an outcome of the game? Absolutely. And there definitely needs to be some changes in the manner that they referee. But because of the way that they did it, that opens the floor for, oh, we got screwed. The refs screwed us. We should be Super Bowl
you start
champions
giving people
because
reasons.
the refs.
Yeah, you start giving people legitimate reasons to try to
And,
point certain ways, and it's like,
and I hate that.
Yeah,
because that is not why you lost.
Both teams had many chances in many different portions and parts of the game on both sides of the ball to seal this game. You cannot say that one play here or there changed the outcome of it, because if he did something differently somewhere down the line, probably wouldn't have even been in that situation. So
exactly. I do not believe that. It irks me when people say that the refereeing cost the Bengals the Super Bowl. No, stop it. It didn't. Right. And I don't, it's
because here's the thing. You still can't even guarantee that something else wouldn't happen the play after something if something did or didn't get called. Like, you don't know the outcome.
The only play in the Super Bowl that resulted there were two plays that resulted in tangible points being scored. T. Higgins and Jalen Ramsey on a slant route in the first half in the end zone. And T. Higgins and Jalen Ramsey, the first play of the second half, where you could go, okay, on that first play in the first half, right, defensive pass interference or holding on Jalen Ramsey. I think that's a little bit ticky-tacky. I think that call was fine if we're just going on my personal opinion. But that first play in the second half,
how you call the game,
that resulted in 7 points for the Bengals and completely flipped the script of the game. That anything else is completely subjective. And then you get into what ifs, and it sucks because it shouldn't come down to that. But because of the manner that the refs officiated the game in, it does. And it sucks. So
yeah, that's not what you want to see out of a Super Bowl. You don't want that to be sort of the legacy behind this game. You don't want to hear about whenever people bring up this Super Bowl is, it was the refs and the penalties. And you want to hear about the performance of the players and the touchdowns or whatever happened in key moments of the game. But yeah, it's just a really unfortunate outcome for overall such a good game, because it was a great game to watch. It was still fun and a close game. But it really does get marred by those penalties and those decisions by the refs.
Regardless of specifics within the game, something's got to be different with the way the referees officiate games. But I think the next thing that we have to look at is what's next for either one of these two football teams, because now that the season is over, you have to look to next season. And the Rams and the Bengals, there are a lot of questions that will they be able to get back? The Rams particularly, lots of guys are leaving. They built this thing up to win now, and now that they have it, is it built to last? I don't know, because Aaron Donald, there was rumors of him retiring if they won, and they did. So we'll see what happens next there. Sean McVay, there was loose rumors about him, wanting to start his family and going to the broadcasting booth.
I could see it in the somewhat near future,
which is interesting because he's only 36 and he's the youngest head coach to ever win a Super Bowl, and he's a brilliant mind. So I don't know how much weight that holds. But then you look at the free agents. Odell Beckham's a free agent. Von Miller, Darius Williams, Sony Michel, Austin Corbett, Joseph Noteboom, Troy Reeder, Matt Gay. It's a long list of impact players that are free agents. And then you want to look to the Bengals side. The thing about the Bengals is that they are such a young team, and this season was so unexpected that, the consensus around the league is, oh yeah, the Bengals, they're young. They have Joe Burrow. They have Jamar Chase. They'll be right back. Not so
simple though.
Not so fast. It's not that simple, because you have to realize how hard getting to a Super Bowl is. And the two main teams that I could, say this refrain with is, first, my Green Bay Packers, which 11 years ago in Aaron Rodgers' second season as a starter, he took the Packers on an unexpected run as the 6th seed, didn't even win the division, and they were Super Bowl champions. And I thought, oh yeah, it's fine. They're going to be right back. And yeah, they haven't been back, so Packers fans are looking at Bengals fans. It's like, yeah, don't be so certain you're going to be back right now, because I see that team and we're like, hey, that's us. We thought that we were going to be back. We haven't been back. And then the other team that I can point to is the Indianapolis Colts, where with Peyton Manning, he finally won his first Super Bowl, and you thought, oh, that team is going to go back and win again. And the Colts, they went back in 2009, but they haven't been back since, despite having Andrew Luck at quarterback. And, getting to a Super Bowl is so difficult. Yeah. I mean, another team that you could point to is Drew Brees. Drew Brees in 2009 won a Super Bowl against the Colts. He never got back.
Countless years of disappointments there. But I think one particular thing to notice in the case of the Bengals, yes, it is hard for any team to have the back-to-back success or that building of a dynasty in a way. But also with the way that the AFC is currently built and the gauntlet that you essentially have to get through to try to get back to the Super Bowl again and again and again. You look to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You look to Josh Allen and the Bills. You even have the emergence of Justin Herbert and the Chargers as that he continues to get better. You have Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. You have Derrick Henry and the Titans, whoever they put at quarterback in the future, whether that's Tannehill or somebody else. You have so many of those teams where you have to be so good so consistently to match the kind of success that the Bengals had this postseason to get there. It's like that, to me, is, I think, going to be one of the biggest things. No matter how good they make their team, is are they going to be able to have those really good games when they need to get past those real superpowers of the AFC?
Is this taking, you make a fine point, is this taking away from anything that the Cincinnati Bengals have done this year? No, absolutely not. This was an impressive run, about as impressive a run.
It's the sustainability that's so difficult.
That run, it was so fun to watch. Joe Burrow made believers out of us all. He made a believer out of you. Meanwhile, I picked against the Bengals every single game.
Every step of the way.
Every step of the way, I picked against the Bengals. And for the wild card, divisional, and conference championship round, they made me eat my words, and they kept moving on. So it was incredibly fun to watch. However, the sustainability is what makes it so difficult. And I think that uncertainty is what makes football so fun, because any given Sunday certainly is true. And we talked about the Rams free agents. I just want to point out that the Bengals certainly have a lot of key guys leaving as well. Riley Reif, Larry Ogunjobi, CJ Uzama, Jesse Bates, Ricardo Allen, Eli Apple, BJ Hill, Trey Flowers, Quentin Spain. That's a pretty extensive list also. Yeah. So how are the Bengals going to retool? Regardless of what these two teams do in the future, it's a great Super Bowl. It was a great football season. It was a great playoffs.
I think this playoffs was some of the most fun and so many close games. I think this was arguably one of the most exciting games or exciting playoffs, game in and game out, to follow and watch, and especially to cover in a way like this. Like, this was so fun to look at all these games individually and watch these teams battle it out through these playoffs. So I'm very thankful for the postseason that we got this year. It was really fun.
Well, especially back to just us covering it, just to see how our predictions turned out, because nothing was ever for certain at any point in time. And I think it was a breath of fresh air where in the Super Bowl, you were finally like, two teams where we don't care who wins, because there's always there's a hero and then there's a villain. There wasn't any villain.
You had heroes on both sides of the Super Bowl,
which is kind of nice, because I think
I did not feel bad no matter which team.
No, exactly. I think the world definitely needed that breath of fresh air and be like, Yeah. But the football season is over, and now it is time to stay wide awake until May. March Madness is right around the corner, and that is also.
I am so excited.
Tim, I know you love college basketball. That is going to be a absolutely wild time for running the table. So, but as far as the Super Bowl recap goes, that is all we got. It was a blast covering the whole playoffs, like we said. You can watch all of those videos here on Running the Table, and we got all sorts of stuff coming at you soon. We're going to be covering college basketball. We're going to be covering the conference tournaments, and then we're going to be covering March Madness when that starts.
Let the madness begin.
Oh, let the madness begin. But until then, like and subscribe for more Running the Table content, and we out.